What can we do about the possibility of a Chinese spy working in Westminster itself? Well, first of all, we don't know whether this is true, and the person in question, a fellow called Chris Cash, has gone on record to say that it isn't true. He's a 28-year-old fellow from Scotland, educated in Edinburgh. His father was a GP. He was head of house of George Watson's school. And he's lived and worked in China. Living and working in China is not the same as being a Chinese spy, of course. He had a parliamentary pass, not the same as being a not the same as being a spy. But it does give him access to things that spies would probably be quite keen to have access to. He denies being an agent. And at the moment, legally we have to throw the word allegedly, or apparently all over the place. He was the director of the China Research Group. That's a group that involved both Tom Tugendhat, who he was close to, and Ian Duncan Smith. Ian Duncan Smith has said it's a remarkably dangerous situation. This is a guy who allegedly spies on behalf of the Chinese government in the place where decisions are made and sensitive information is transferred. It's vitally important that he is named, because many people who came into contact with this individual will be unaware that he has been arrested on suspicion of espionage. There is a clear public interest. Absolutely. Absolutely. But Suella Braverman has gone further, and she seems to have invoked the ire not only of the Prime Minister but also of the Chancellor. So what she wants to do is to make it impossible for anybody to have links with China and still go on to work without declaring those links to the government. She says anybody working at the directive of China or state-linked Chinese companies would be required to register with the government and disclose activities carried out on their behalf. A failure to do that would result in a 5-year sentence, and it would be considered a criminal offence. But China is also a trading partner, and this sort of being heavy-handed in response to this allegation could have a very negative impact on trade. And the Prime Minister has already spoken, we know, at the G20 summit. The Prime Minister has already spoken to the Premier and expressed his concerns. Diplomatic language, but, diplomacy is useful, because we can express concerns, anger, irritation, and at the same time continue the conversation. And this is something that has broken down in our relationship with Russia. We wouldn't want this to break down in our relationship with China. In fact, it's vitally important that we maintain our relationship with China. And particularly when the fellow in question, Chris Cash, denies that that the stories which are coming out are true. So we have to be very careful. We have to take precautions, but we mustn't overreact. And even if it turns out to be true, we mustn't overreact, because it's more important that we keep lines open between ourselves and China, precisely because of our trade connections, precisely because of the dangers that we have seen in ramping up the saber rattling with Russia.